yeah, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow because, like, look, literally, I would say a bit more than a year ago,
Yeah.
the situation in Donbass was bad, but quite
Mm.
stable. So, like, I can't really say that, up until like at least February 2021, we had that sense that, that we could face like a full like a proper invasion to Ukrainian territory. I mean, even like before it started, they just sounded outlandish, and it's been 2 weeks of it now, and I'm in the middle of it. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, every single time I go to sleep, I've got that weird feeling that like, no, it's all a nightmare, and I'll wake up and life will be back to normal. So yeah, I know what you guys are going through, and I think our two country situations are quite similar.
Yes. Also, as I share with you, I had a chat with the editing team of Korean Economic Daily. They are happy to support. They are willing to support. So even I can share the contents of our interview. I can send you the couple of the topic. I mean, in order to share with that the Korean audience or reader, maybe audience Asian audience reader as well, because we can publish in Korean and English together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also as promised, first of all, I've spoken to the president's office. Yeah, I mean, the situation on the ground is quite difficult, so they're not turning things
Yes, I can
around as quick
imagine. Yeah, I
as
can
quickly
imagine.
as they used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're working on providing you with speakers and materials, and having people interact with the Korean people on a daily basis, in the media kind of sphere. And also on top of that, I've asked one of my friends who's a governor to reach out to Governor Kim and
Yes.
have him join us at some point. But there's a wave of attacks on Nikolaev now, so I think like look, we'll give him a day or two to kind of to
Yes.
repel those attacks, and then victoriously
Yeah.
he'll join the conversation.
Yes. I thought it's like a political leader, country government, they can play their own role. I mean, using the option of a military or diplomatic or politics, whatever. But it is also important for, as a civilian, ordinary people around the world, we can influence and to put pressure on the Russian side to give up this war, right?
Yeah, and we really appreciate that. I'll give you one example. We really wouldn't like to see multinational companies and respectable companies doing business in Russia, at least for now. I mean, ideally they need to leave until there's some sort of settlement of the terrible tragedy that's happened. But at least whilst the active whilst the live hot war is going on. Obviously, paying taxes in Russia is just morally wrong and ethically wrong on many levels, right? So we were speaking with a number of like top managers and shareholders of companies and whatnot, and lots of companies left. But there are some companies that kind of pretended they didn't see what was going on, and one of the major spheres where that was happening was international law firms. So we spoke to this company like called White and Case, I think about 3 times. They reached out and said like, look, guys, you have your Moscow office. I mean, yeah, obviously, I mean, any political decision such as to leave the country and kind of move out for a time being, it will cost you money, it will hurt, but now this war is all about the fight for freedom and the new world geopolitical order, and like doing business with terrorists is just wrong. So like yeah, it's going to hurt, but please do it. And they just ignored everything. They just they pretended that they didn't hear anything. So I went on MSNBC yesterday during prime time and I literally called them out by their name. I didn't care. They can sue me if they want to. And
Yes.
they left. They closed their Moscow office within 30 minutes after the interview aired. So
Yes.
that's why the media and the ordinary people actually play probably even a more important role than governments,
Yes.
because
I agree.
they didn't leave because the government told them so. They left
Right.
because their clients, customers, and the people they kind of even go to Starbucks in the morning to have coffee with,
Yes.
they kind of
Yes.
they tell them, you know, what are you doing is ethically wrong. So
I,
yeah, that's
I t-
important.
I totally agree with it, because like I don't have any knowledge, and I'm not familiar with the political society, but the political leader like Putin, he's very familiar with the protocol of politics, right? So all the political option, diplomatic option, probably he's prepared to decline, right?
Yeah,
Then is
yeah.
as a human being, everybody feels scared of being isolated, total isolation from the world and everybody in the world. Probably that's something, as an ordinary human being, we can contribute and work together. I mean, sort out the current situation.
I think like, look, this is, you know, this war is the first on many levels. So, you know, obviously it's the first war of this scale since probably even 1945. I mean, we can argue about, you know, the Korean War and the Vietnam War, and probably Afghanistan, but Russia's already lost more people, more soldiers in this war than in over like a number of years in Afghanistan. So that's the first. Also, it's the first social media war. And that's absolutely mind-blowing because, like, look, I'm in Kyiv at the moment. So obviously, yeah, we have explosions, you know, we have bad things happen. But what's really weird about it is just like you would hear an explosion, you would open Twitter, and like literally 10 seconds later, you'd read about it, you know,
Yes.
live on social media. And within like 30 or 40 seconds of it, you'd get a full HD picture of it. And
Yes.
we actually,
Igor, I would
yeah,
say to make it completely right. Okay, I'm sitting in Lviv, by the way, for the time being. So I'm not in the center of a real war like Igor is, because I am not Mr. Zelensky advisor or whatever. But I would say, David, that Twitter is not super popular platform in Ukraine, unfortunately. Ukraine works and lives on Telegram. And
Telegram.
whenever Telegram is a platform of choice for most Ukrainians now. And all the news that people are getting now about the war, about humanitarian relief and other issues, the news are coming to big Telegram channels. It's called channel.
So
And some of the channels they have.
is it correct that Telegram has a similar function as a Facebook group or WeChat group, something like that, other than
yeah,
simple
it's
messaging?
Yes.
I would say it's similar to
Yes.
WeChat, really
Okay.
similar to WeChat
Yes.
in that sense.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Telegram. Also, like, look, TikTok also played a major part because, you know, I think TikTok told us more about Russian troop movements before the war than, you know, any like Western intelligence, which is really weird, but it's true. So literally because of, you know, a major obsession with TikTok, you know, amongst Russian teenagers, what you would have for like 3 or 4 months before the invasion, you'd have those people from really weird places like in the far east of Russia just film those TikTok videos and like start viral campaigns of like, you know, here's a train with tanks heading west, right? Here's the train of like rocket launchers heading west. And we were collecting that information and kind of analyzing it. And like, it was incredibly accurate. So basically what the Western intelligence was telling everyone, TikTok was telling everyone, but way faster. So yeah, it's the first social media war. And also I would say, thirdly, it's probably the first three-dimensional war, the first three-dimensional hybrid war. So basically it's being fought on all fronts. I mean, yeah, we read on the news and we kind of hear in Kyiv, we see and feel it and hear it. We have the actual like live hot war happening. So you have tanks, rockets, soldiers, whatnot. There's also an economic war happening. So Ukraine was being attacked economically by Russia before this, you know, especially like within the energy sector and a number of other sectors. Now Russia is being, you know, attacked back by, you know, the collective West and, you know, people who aren't Russia, pretty much everyone's united. There's also an information war happening.
Yes.
There's also a kind of, and this is probably the first time ever in history I'm witnessing like a full-scale information war being democratized to a peer-to-peer level, which is really weird because you have the fighting happening, you know, within families, within small communities, within like cyber gaming groups,
right,
within, you know, within like Instagram blogger communities, right? You know, within fashion, within, you name it.
I read that.
Everyone.
sorry to interrupt. I
No,
read
no,
that
no.
Putin started cracking down, already cracked down the social media, all the media in Russia, so to prevent the Russian people from having access to the, I mean, all the facts about what's happening in the Ukraine, right? So I thought it's maybe then we can reverse it. We can do everything opposite. I mean, the Putin does, right? And we spread the news, we share get our words out and spread all over the place. Then it's probably one of the biggest threat to him, right?
Well, one of the things we are slowly doing, obviously, I mean, because of the heavy fighting that's going on, it doesn't we don't prioritize it. But we slowly speak with different Western celebrities and Eastern celebrities to reach out to their fan bases, directly, because that's one of the toughest things to censor, even in Russia, is that, direct link between celebrities and their fans. So, they know better what platform they use, how they communicate, how they follow, their favorite celebrity. So I would actually have a small request of, the Korean people, if possible. That would be for your celebrities who are incredibly popular in Russia. And I'm talking about BTS, I'm talking about Psy, about, everyone else, the cast of, the Squid
That's
Game.
great. Actually, that's a great
to
idea.
reach out to the Russian audience, to the Russian fan
Right.
base, and tell them, like, look, guys, war is bad. I mean, you're being lied to by your government. You're being oppressed. You're on your way back in time to 1937. And, it's wrong. Just make your voices heard. That's like the
Right.
simple message. Be careful, be extra careful, because, Russia is a really bad place for any free voice. But at the same time, kind of make yourselves heard, one way or the
Right.
other.
So
I think
can we
would
start
really help.
that? Can we get it started? I mean, if, for example, I briefly had a chat with Peter, and then I message you. If one of the, the movie star, actor, or the singer who has a quite significant influence in Ukraine, or you're part of the region, he's make a little bit of very short speech like a TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like nominate second person as we do campaign and the movement, right? We can nominate the BTS, whoever has a great influence in international society, then we all as a whole, we can facilitate that relay and the communication.
Yeah, I
David,
mean,
Make that up.
can I ask a question? Can I ask you a question? Is it really necessary this to be some well-known Ukrainian celebrity? Because Ukrainian celebrities are not big on TikTok. I suggest, can it be some Ukrainian kids who are really crazy fans of this BTS and other Korean groups?
Yeah, that's
No,
even more creative idea. I think that's
Yeah.
a more creative idea. They
Yeah.
probably that's a better way, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, little things like that, unleash your creativity, because you can actually help us. I mean, the way I explained it, I've had this really interesting conversation with a couple of American celebs, and, I'm not going to mention them by name because it's private, but like, look, they were saying, like, we more than happy, and they did the videos for like Ukrainian fans, they reached out to the Russian fans, but they asked me, like, does that really help? I mean, you're facing like real life genocide. So, you have rockets fly, you have your civilians being killed, and everything. You have a major crisis. How does my video help? And I explained to them, like, look, if we're talking about your Russian audience, you can literally stop the war. Because, if there's major opposition, even silent opposition to the war in Russia, if it's really large scale, I mean, it'll make it really difficult for Russia to at least replenish troops. And if they stop replenishing, their troops and reserves, sooner or later they'd have to sit down at the table and talk, because, they won't be able to sustain momentum. As far as like Ukrainian fans are concerned, you can literally save lives, because imagine you have an ambulance crew who haven't slept for like, 2 or 3 days, they're literally kind of running on empty. And then they open their like social media and they see their favorite celebrity just kind of reach out to you and say, like, look, guys, what you're doing, it does have reason. And I mean, it's not for nothing, we're here, we're watching you, and, we're proud of you and stuff like that. And that will give them that extra 10% of energy to save somebody's life. And that's where like a TikTok video, Instagram actually kind of converts it into an actual life being saved. And, that's incredible. So, I strongly encourage everyone to do it. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. So, just kind of if Korean people want to have fun with it, why not? Why not figure out and create a challenge? Or we don't need to tell you how to do it. I mean, kind of surprise.
Right. I think I don't know the BTS director at all, but I think if we have
Neither do I.
get this idea start, I think
Yeah.
a lot of people will try to help us out to, make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know BTS personally, and I'm familiar with their music, but look, I have a 13-year-old girl, so
Right,
so,
right.
so yeah, I know really well who they are.
I also have 13 years old girl who is singing, dancing, and loves this BTS. And I'll talk to her immediately after this call, asking her with her friends. She's now in France to do something like a appeal to BTS, something like this.
Yes, like passing a baton to the BTS, right?
Yes,
Then
yes.
make a short, very short video, and then in the video telling BTS, please help us to this relay happen and then influence Russia, right?
Yeah. By the way, Dave, so do you have any questions? I mean, like,
Okay.
because I keep talking, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes. What is the current situation? Current situation in Kiev. Russia started war 2 weeks ago, right? And I understand they try to continue to attempt to advance toward the Kiev. But
Yeah.
what is happening now?
Well, at the moment, I would say are in between two waves of like major attacks against the actual capital, against Kiev.
Yeah.
So basically what's happening is from the north and northwest of Kiev, there's been heavy fighting going on there for a number of days now, and Russians aren't making that much progress. From the eastern side of Kiev, they're heavily attacking, a satellite city called Brovary, and they're trying to kind of go around it as well, further south, on the eastern flank. But at the same time, despite the heavy fighting, what is happening now, we consider, a kind of a slower momentum period between two waves of attacks. So we're expecting a major assault on Kiev to commence like within days, if not hours. So that's the situation. Now, in terms of actually, by the way, you might be able to hear some explosions. There was one just now, but it was quite far away. I even hear it through my headphones. Basically, as far as their chances are concerned, that's the most worrying part, because with conventional weapons and with what they have in terms of like, soldiers on the ground, I would say it's virtually impossible to take Kiev. Kiev is a city of over like 4 million people. Yeah, half of them have left. That still leaves 1.5 to 2 million people still there. And those are mostly angry men, so no longer women and children. There's lots of weapons in Kiev. The city is being fortified. The city has really interesting topography and geography. So, it's split into by a major river, Dnieper River. There are many high-rise buildings, and literally it's a death trap for any invading army. So, and everyone, I think, concurs on the fact that, with what we're seeing, it's impossible to take Kiev. And yet somehow, they're still trying. So that is the scariest part, because we keep hearing this stories about potential use of like chemical weapons. And I think if you throw chemical weapons into a mix, that kind of still introduces more uncertainty to the end result. And that's what everyone is really worried on the ground about at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Major explosion just now.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's very good to hear.
No, those are not good to hear at all.
It's not that simple for the Russian just to try to, advance into Kiev and take over. Already 2 weeks. In the beginning, people think that because Russia has a large troops and armed forces, so people thought that afraid, if people felt afraid, it may take a very short time for them to make advancement in Kyiv, but it does not look like that simple, right?
It's not simple at all. And look, I think one of the reasons for Russian failure is actually, that vicious circle and the loop, a loop of corruption and lies that they've created. They tried exporting it, but it penetrated their own system from within as well. So basically what happened, they invested a lot of dirty money into destabilizing Ukraine prior to the invasion. And, from what we're hearing, they've been told, that at least half the population will welcome them with flowers. And then as you go up the chain of command, within Putin's totalitarian regime, people get more and more scared of telling the truth to their superiors. So basically, I'm pretty sure Putin's heard the story, this side of the story, that once you kind of go in, there'll be virtually no resistance, and you'll take Kyiv within a day or two. That's why we're seeing, burnt out tanks and, armored vehicles. And look, we don't even know the numbers now. I'll touch on it in a second. But yeah, we're finding parade uniforms in the vehicles that we capture or burn. So basically what Russians were expecting was to enter Ukraine and within literally 2 or 3 days have that victory parade in Kyiv.
The funny thing, David, is that we even found 2 tanks that were destined for parade. It's nicely painted tanks, not for combat, but for really parade. So they sent even tanks preparing for parade. And it completely confirms what Igor is telling you, that they were expecting to get Kyiv in 4 days, maybe maximum, and get half of the country maybe in 6-8 days. And they completely failed. And I think the important statements that people forget to say is that we have to really celebrate Russian corruption. Russian corruption is helping Ukraine to win this war, because corruption is not only people are stealing money, because that's the most obvious side of corruption.
Everywhere in the system, right? Everywhere in the system.
That government is giving, But the other side of the corruption that people forget to mention is that in a corrupted system, somebody who is going on the top, somebody who is commanding the people, managing the people, he is one of the worst possible managers, because he's got to the top by bribing people. So he and this helps Ukraine a lot, because now we understand that a lot of Russian generals, a lot of Russian people managing the different spying agencies, they got on top due to corruption. Via corruption, and that's why they are not very capable.
Can I quickly interrupt you? David, ask me quickly the questions that you want to ask, because the explosions are getting louder.
My question is, people around the world that have watched and been amazed, I think, by the spirit of Ukrainian people to fight and resist, right? So what is that all about, and where is that coming from? I thought the Ukrainian is quite similar to Korean. We is always invaded by many countries or resisted, recovered, and something like that. So can you tell us?
Well, I see 2 major reasons for that. One is historical. We're the country of survivors and fighters. So, first of all, we became who we are on the crossroads of what used to be 3 major empires. So, Austro-Hungarian, Turkish, and Russian. So we had to live with that kind of quest to oppress us, throughout centuries. Also, we've survived in, 2 major genocides, and we're going through a 3rd one of Ukrainian people. So in the 1930s, during the USSR years, they tried to starve us to death, and we actually lost millions of people to that. So we're used to surviving. But, the best answer is, I figured out a way to explain it to the American audience, but I'm pretty sure it's going to ring the bell, with the Korean people as well. Ask your soldiers, ask your veterans, ask the people who protect your country why they do that, and they will explain it to you best. Look, it's our home. You just don't leave your home to whoever wants to come and take it, right? Because if you leave your home, there's nowhere else to run. That's one thing. And the second thing is, even if you run, with Russia, you're just kind of postponing the inevitable. So, if I move to Poland and, some Russian soldiers move into my house and live here, I'll have to fight him in Warsaw, like in a year or in a few months, in a few years. Look, I was born in Donetsk in eastern Ukraine. So what we're going through now, I already went through 8 years ago in Donetsk. So with Russia, there's Putin doesn't have red lines. I mean, what he wants to do, he wants to take Russia back, economically to at least 1991. So, the time of complete chaos, madness, and poverty. He wants to take, the Google Maps of at least of Europe to 1945. So, he wants the Eastern Bloc, his Warsaw Pact back and, whatnot. And he wants to take the Russian people back to 1937. So he wants to rule the same way Stalin did. And if you carefully study what was been going on in Russian propaganda over the last 10 years, I mean, they've slowly resurrected, that ghost of Stalin. And they actually turned Stalin into a major hero, like one of the Avengers in Russia, right? He's like, Captain America, but in Russia. So I think, Putin towards what Facebook now allows me to say, hopefully towards the end of his life. Now he's basically, he wants to rule the same way Stalin did, and he wants to see the same geopolitical picture that, Khrushchev and Brezhnev saw, like, in the 50s and 60s. And, he doesn't care about the economy. So most likely he'll take Russia back to what it's been like in the early 90s, where, what used to be a major superpower in a few years had to, ask for humanitarian help and food from the United States.
Got it.
Actually, David, I think it's my personal opinion that Igor's approach is too simplified about this Stalin heroification, about building in Russia something similar to 37th year. And I think I can elaborate on this in a more depth, because unlike Igor, I was born in Russia and I used to be a Russian citizen, and I renounced my Russian citizenship. And I have some relatives here, so still some friends. So I think I maybe know better how Russia operates now. I'm now, of course, Ukrainian citizen, and but I think it's oversimplified what Igor told you, and we need to go deeper. It's my personal opinion.
Peter, I agree. I'm trying to give a simpler picture, because you have to remember you're talking to the people who are not familiar with the situation and with Russia that deeply, so you have to explain the basics to them.
Hearing from you guys, I think at least experience, right? You had as a country, as a people, you had an experience that shaped and formed the people in Ukraine now. I think same as Korean, right?
Yeah, I heard this term yesterday, and I found it really funny and useful to describe Ukraine. We're a constitutional anarchy, not monarchy, but anarchy. And that's probably the best description of Ukraine as I've ever heard. Like, look, we're all different, and during peacetime, Ukraine is probably the most chaotic place ever. So, our domestic politics are just, the Wild West. Everyone's fighting out, wars with everyone, and economically it's weird. And but at the same time, this country time and time again has proven that, when faced with a major existential threat, it unites really well. And that's a great thing. And I think that's one of the key factors to our survival.
Got you. I want to ask another question. I came to know that there is the Ukraine leader, hero of Korean ethnic background, right? I just read an article in the internet. It's what is his name? It's Vitaliy Kim. Vitaliy Kim, right? He even speak Korean language. So everyone's in the world say that President Zelensky is a hero. He's doing great job as a leader to deal with the situation. But people also talk about another hero. It's a Vitaliy Kim. So do you know the more story about him? Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Well, look, he's the governor of Mykolaiv region. So Mykolaiv is at the moment is one of the hotspots. So it's one of the cities that's standing in the way of Russia creating that land corridor and taking, the entire Black Sea coast from Ukraine. So Odessa and Mykolaiv are like two major problems for Russia in that sense. Look, he was just an ordinary guy. He was just an ordinary governor. And, at wartime, you kind of, all soldiers look the same until the first bullet flies. And then then all the peacetime kind of hypocrisy and, covers get blown away and you see who, what kind of people they are. Yeah, he's definitely a hero. And I think what he shares with President Zelensky and a few other people, apart from, major courage and willpower, is his exquisite use of social media. So, as I said to you in the beginning, this is the first, three-dimensional war, and the social media and information war, are a major part of what's happening. So, for people look, I've spoken to a number of my American friends, and I said, look, I mean, what do you think of this war, right? I mean, what are you following? Why are you helping? Why are you not helping? So I wanted to kind of dig deep and find out what's going on. Look, for people, it's I think this war is also an evolution of their kind of reality TV demand, if you know what I mean. So the Iraq war in the early 2000s, that shock and awe was the first TV war. So I remember people watching that live feed live on CNN of Baghdad and waiting for that first bomb to land, right? 9/11 was the first TV major terrorist attack, when the whole world was watching, everything was happening live. I think this war is the first war everyone is watching live in a reality TV format. So you can go as deep and as detailed as you like in this war. So you're seeing major casualties, you're seeing personal stories and everything. And any reality TV action flick needs heroes, right? They need their John Wicks and John McClanes and everything. Every reality TV flick needs their antagonists. So the bad people, the nemesis, the major antagonist, Putin, and those kind of donut eating police chiefs who kind of get in the way of John McClane saving the Nakatomi Tower. I think, Vitaliy Kim, President Zelensky, and a few other people, they've been, due to how they use social media, they've been picked out by the major international audience to be their protagonists. So they are the faces of what's going on. They're the faces of good. Two things I want to say about that. On the bright side, it's incredibly important because yes, those people are incredibly strong, committed, determined and defiant to get to the end and win this for us. And kudos to them for that. On the negative side, the word of warning, a small disclaimer, they are also a collective portrait of, the heroism of the Ukrainian people. Yes. So they just have more followers in social media. And that's important to remember. I mean, this war is being won not only by President Zelensky or Vitaliy Kim or somebody else. This war is being won by regular Ukrainian soldiers who don't have TikTok and Instagram. And, it's being won by Ukrainian civilians who help each other out, who save lives and stuff like that. So focus on those faces, the protagonists of this conflict is important, but it's also to remember to keep in touch with reality and know that it's not only about Zelensky or Kim or somebody else. It's about every single Ukrainian who's on the ground in Ukraine now and doing whatever they can. Somebody's giving interviews, somebody's firing guns, somebody's saving lives as a doctor, somebody's delivering milk to shops. That's important because look, you can fight as much as you want. If you run out of bread and milk and water, it gets difficult to fight. So they are the poster child of that. That's who they are.
I read an article in Reuters. Ukraine asked for the South Korea's cybersecurity aid, but I'm not sure what happened. Probably is a political or a communication between the government. It take a lot of time, as you can imagine, right? Yeah. Also, even the collaboration between the two large company take a lot of time because we should go through the organization process, communication, execution, and everything, right? So if there is anything, something like this, probably, leveraging this show, we can reach out to the other people to facilitate this kind of collaboration.
Yeah, we definitely need that. I think I'm going to go in a sec after this. So Peter,
Yes,
and given Peter's background, he's probably has a lot more to say about cybersecurity than I do. But like what I would tell you is, that's one aspect of this war that I forgot to mention. Yeah, Russia's weaponized also, their cyber actions and their cyber strategy, and it's incredibly important for Ukraine to get all the help we need on the cyber front, because we're an interesting country. Digitalization has been kind of developing rapidly, but in a limited way in Ukraine. So we're kind of safe with some of our infrastructure, but the digitized infrastructure is under threat from Russia. And the tactic that Russia is using now, more and more people on the ground in Ukraine at the moment think that what Russia is really after is the territory, so they can pretty much control the entire Eastern European border from the Baltics down to the Black Sea, to later, upstage, whatever NATO has planned for Eastern Europe. So they don't care about civilians. They want to cause as much chaos and destruction as possible to kill those who don't want to leave and to force the majority of people to leave. For Poland or whatever, yeah, because they don't need the people, they don't need the country, they need the territory. So one of the ways to really hurt Ukrainians is cyber, because we are quite advanced as far as for example, e-payments are concerned. Like, yes, I don't remember when was the last time I actually held cash in my hands, right? I seriously don't. And that was one of the things I was most worried about, on the first day of the war, because, if my phone can't pay my bills, I'm literally in trouble. I would have to go and find an ATM, yes, under major fire. So
actually, David, it's amazing if you can think of it, that we are having more than 2 weeks of dirty, difficult war, and mobile network is mostly intact throughout the country, mostly, and bank networks is working just fine. People are still paying by cards, by Apple Pay, by Google Pay. So yes, it's working. It shows, yes, it's absolutely amazing. And it shows that Ukraine is quite a digital country. It shows that people working in banks, in National Bank of Ukraine, in mobile companies, they really understand what they are doing. And I think that's funny to say, by the way, David, that Russian mobile network, they will crumble before Ukrainian mobile network, because very soon they don't have an access to spare parts, to software, because everybody is banning, everybody except Chinese companies, of course, everybody is banning the supplying mobile companies. And former CEO of big mobile company in Ukraine, I can tell you that without the support, you cannot really live for, you cannot run your company for a long time. So you'll crumble. And you can put it in your headlines that I expect that Russian mobile network will crumble before Ukrainian mobile networks.
Yes,
and we'll do our best to help it crumble as quickly as possible. But look, yeah, cyber is very important, guys. I'm gonna have to leave you with Peter, yes, because I have to run and check on my kids. There were some explosions, yes, so I need to see what's going on.
I think we can wrap up here, because this is the first talk, and then we can continue the.
I'm available. I'm available daily. Yeah. So whenever you reach out, I'll join, and hopefully that we'll have less explosions, so I can be more focused and have less time. Peter, lovely to see you, Dave. Lovely to see you. I'll see you guys soon.
Igor and Peter, thank you so much for being with us today. And then let's continue. Also, let's come up with some good creative idea to make an impact. To help the.
Igor, the most important, please be safe in Kyiv, because you are.
Thank you. Yeah.
In the middle of the war.
Yeah, we're not being stupid. We're being extra careful. So we're gonna be okay, hopefully.
Okay.
Unless they nuke us.
Much.
If they nuke us, all bets are off.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Be safe. Be safe. Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you.